Welcome to Playing the Game, the podcast where we interview athletes who are now ventured into the world of business. So the goal is to inspire and give information to people who might want to follow the journey and take a leap into the world of business from sport. So I want to get variation of guests and get insight into their brain. And speaking of guests, we've got our first guest today. We've got the one, the only, the king, Rhys Duke, Burleigh Bears legend. I went the other day and there's at least 6 photos of you on the wall. So it's great to have you in there. How you going, man?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, bit of a rundown. So Dukey owns his own social media content creation business.
Yep.
Had that for a while. He's also had a hand in Sneak Collective. And he's also had a behind the scenes doing a bit of work with Refuse to Lose podcast.
Yeah.
So let's start with the podcast. So you interviewed a variety of guests. Who was probably the number one guest you sort of got a bit of information from?
Oh, pretty much everyone. Like there was so many. It sort of took off really well. Like obviously, so for anyone that doesn't know, my brother's a sports journalist with
lived in your shadow. I heard Jake Duke, if you've heard of him. Yeah. I see him sometimes sitting in the rain on the sidelines of NRL games, and he's just like, man, how can I be Rhys? So
that's him. If you see that bloke, that's who he is. But yeah, so we started out. Just the whole gist of it was around sort of talking about athletes and especially footy players. Obviously, we grew up playing footy and stuff like that, and all you really ever heard, especially with footy players, if they're in the news, if they haven't won a game or done something spectacular on the field, they're in the news for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They're drunk, they've done something wrong.
Yeah,
it's
the typical like NRL sort of stereotype.
Exactly. So there wasn't a whole lot of, we thought there wasn't a whole lot of positive news coming out around athletes and in particular footy players. So we thought, why not? We had a few little connections there, like through Jake's work and just fellas we grew up with.
Yep.
And we started out predominantly with footy and then ventured on to just a range of athletes and whoever we could sort of get in and have a chat to. So
yeah. I know one of them were from outside the footy world, Volkanovski. That would have been a pretty cool guest. Where obviously you had a bit to do behind the scenes. Were you present? Did you get to go to the interviews? Like, were you filming there or just doing the editing? What was your sort of role in that?
So a lot, we'd sort of just shoot on mobile. We started out shooting them in Sydney, and Jake would sort of just go around. We'd take like a mobile kit and just shoot them because we're just doing audio, so we didn't have all the cameras and everything. So Jake would sort of go around and just shoot at their houses or wherever work because they've obviously got busy schedules and stuff. So we'd just try and be like, look,
just fit in with them.
Wherever you've got an hour, we don't need you to travel anywhere. We don't need you to do anything. We'll come to you and make it as easy as possible. So. Yeah, when we shot some up here, and it was around like COVID time too, so it was tough. Like I wanted to go down for a few and shoot them, and then it just, everything happened there. So we shot a few up here, and I went to those, and then a few were over Skype, like with Volk and stuff like that. Yeah, during all of that sort of crazy period. So
I guess you did. I'm sure you mainly the editing behind the scenes, so you would have very in depth and looking at all the messaging and the cross and what. Did you find there was a sort of a connection between each of the athletes? So when you speak to them, like, do you think they had a particular mindset that made them as good as they were, or do you see any connections between all of them?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I touched on it before, but we sort of wanted to focus on, struggles that they'd gone through, whether it was jumping into business or like, just things that they've lived with and gone through in their life and how that sort of affected them. And, if that helped a younger kid or someone that's listening, then that was the whole aim of it. Yeah. So, they all had these intertwining sort of stories that, sort of drove who they were as a person and their character traits and everything like that. So a lot of them had, these backstories that drove them to, this, maybe it was their only outlet, was their sport. Yeah. And stuff like that and sort of how they developed as a human and what they did to sort of get into there. But everyone was so different. Like the people we had on was just so different and just had the most insane stories that you'd never think, seeing from the outside in, you just go, oh, that's Greg Inglis. Yeah. He's just freak athlete, killing it in every aspect ever. And then obviously everyone knows about, his stints in rehab and stuff now. Yeah. But at the time you don't
just don't get
no one
perspective
knows
into
until
that.
It comes out in the media and then it's like this big taboo sort of thing that sort of gets thrown around. But
obviously you touched on Greg. Was there any other sort of stories? I know like he had Joel Thompson, Jack White and James Roberts. You have obviously so many of these huge athletes and obviously, as you said, so many of them are publicized and we know a lot of the media's job is to get clicks. They get paid for clicks, so they're only going to post what gets clicks, and the bad things get clicks. So are there any stories you want to share that I guess from that might not have made the front page because it wasn't as click worthy?
I think one that really stood out to me was Paul Fleming, Paul Showtime Fleming, boxer that we had on. So he's the guy that, if anyone remembers, he fought on like some of the no limit cards and stuff like that. And he, you know, when he won his purse and he's like, oh, I'm taking it to the Easter show, we're going to spend all my purse at the Easter show. And that. So it was a bit of like that went a bit viral, but his story was insane. Like he was illiterate until he was 20, like couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do anything. Like feel like he might have like speech impediment and stuff, just all this stuff. And, you know, just sort of got into boxing because that was like his only outlet. And yeah, that one was, and you know, if you mentioned Paul Fleming, not a whole lot of people probably know his name unless you sort of watched boxing or anything like that. So that one sort of stuck with me because his story was just insane. And there'd be thousands of kids, millions of kids out there that sort of go through the same thing. And, you know, you can look at him and go, he was like Australian champ, like close to world champ fucking boxer.
I think it's such a, as you said, like, what is it, illiterate till he's 20 and personally background in teaching, worked high schools and that. And you see a lot of those, they just try to hide, I guess, and they're embarrassed about the things that they don't have, and they use that sport as their outlet because they're like, well, I can't read, I can't rub, I can't let anyone know, so I have to put on this big tough persona and I'm just going to go dominate on the field. And they get through life and they, I guess, you know, some get as far as they do, but yeah, it is very interesting that you know, even people at that level just sort of have behind the scenes struggles that not a lot of people know about.
And that's what he sort of touched on as well was, you know, he was sort of embarrassed by it and stuff like that. So then come out in like some forms of like frustration and anger, and you know, he'd be play up in class and stuff because he just run amok because he was embarrassed to not let anyone know that he can't read, can't write, can't do anything. So it, and then you just get labelled as this naughty kid that doesn't do anything. And, you know, deep down there's a whole lot more to it. So,
Speaking of education and past, you went to university. You're engineer by bachelor degree, civil engineer. But now you're obviously doing social media content. Tell us a bit about the transition. So went to uni, obviously, 4-year degree, worked for about 3
1.5. Fail for you.
Had to repeat it. Repeat a couple of them, as we all did. And then how long did you work? About 2-3 years?
Yeah, it's about 3 years.
Doing that, and then you're like, nah, see you later. Don't worry about the university degree. I'm going to go and back myself in, you know, social media content creation. Tell us about the process and the journey and the mindset that it sort of took for you to get to take that leap. Obviously, it was the start of COVID, I believe. So you know, big move.
So as you said, went to school. So anyone that knows my mum, our pathway and growing up in our house was you go to school, you get a degree, and then do what you want after that. So, and like obviously it's a good mindset to have and everything like that. And I thank my mum for it because I definitely wouldn't be here where I am today if I didn't grow up like that. So did that, went to uni, did engineering. I think probably like 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I don't really know if this is for me, but you know, I'd sort of always wanted to finish what I started.
Same thing.
So finished it off. As I said, took an extra 6 months because I probably wasn't too invested in it, and then failed a few subjects. And then, I got offered like a really good job straight out of uni that, you know, people that want to go down that path, they'd kill for that job. Like with massive company, and like tier 1 building company. And got this job and I was like, oh, well, I can't really. I did have those thoughts of being like, no, I'm just not even going to use my degree. I'll go do something else. And then just got that opportunity. I thought, well, I can't waste it. Maybe the job's a bit better than the degree and I'll like it a bit more. Yeah. Because the degree was just
torture.
Dry.
Yeah.
Like the worst. Anyway, so I started out in that, worked for about 3 years, and just over that time, I tried to apply myself as much as I could, but just couldn't, you know.
Didn't love it.
Just never really got with it. Like things would just go in one ear out the other because I just didn't have that interest there. And then ended up as COVID was happening, they were looking at like decreasing team sizes and stuff on the projects I was on, everything like that. Like everything was just all over the shop. And then they sort of said, you know, you can take, you can fill out this form that says, because there's not much else other work in Southeast Queensland in that line of work we're doing. So they're like, you can sort of fill out this form saying you're willing to go and move you know, interstate or wherever, anywhere in Australia to go to another project, and then like the team will start looking for other jobs elsewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Or you can essentially take your redundancy and go. And I'm like, well,
See you later.
sort of planning on going anyway. So.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so opportunity lines, you know, sometimes the universe works and sort of trying to send you subliminal messages, and obviously at the time it wouldn't have been, oh yeah, this is such a great idea. Obviously still risk taking.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Risk taking even.
Yeah.
But obviously you look now and they're always trying to push you. They're trying to push you out the door.
Yeah. Yeah. So ended up doing that, finished up, and then sort of didn't really have a plan. I just sort of thought, I knew that wasn't for me, and looking back on it, like it was kind of ballsy to just be like, I'm just going to go
100%.
do whatever. But it was just sort of that time that I wasn't going to fill out forms and go, yeah, I'll go move to Northern Territory.
Yep.
If I don't like what I was working on here on the Gold Coast, I'm not going to enjoy it living
away
in
from
Northern
the
Territory,
friends, away from family. Yeah.
So, yeah, did that, and then slowly sort of fell into this line of work and thought, you know, I like the content sort of game. I'd never done really anything.
I was going to say, did you have much, like when you're growing up, you know, some people are sort of like back of the head, like, oh, I'm going to do this one day. Like, what was your experience doing content? Have you, you know, did you play around? Were you one of those guys who used to edit videos for fun when you used to go on family holidays, do a few vlogs, take a few photos, or you just, none experience?
No, so I had, well, now I think about it, and I didn't think about it at the time. I had a teacher in grade like 6 and 7, Miss Rareri at Burleigh Primary.
Yeah, I got Burleigh.
And she was the best. Like,
was it librarian?
Nah, she was like I can't remember. She was like a grade 6, 7 teacher and did all of that. And I was in her class, and like the benefit of being in her class was she was really into like photography, videography, all this stuff. So she'd have just digital cameras, like the old DSLRs, just in the classroom, and pretty much everything you did, like instead of the other grade 7 classes, would be doing maths and just normal like sort of subjects. And say if we did an English assignment, it'd be like film a video doing this and stuff like that, and playing around with cameras and all that stuff. And I didn't think about it at the time, and I used to love it. Like we'd just do that, and we had the computer lab right there, so we'd just be on computers and cameras all day, every day. Now look back on it, so that's probably maybe where it started. And then so finished up, and then randomly just started getting into this line of work. Like ran into Josh Burkus, owns First Choice Solar here.
Oh, yeah, shout out. Let's go.
At a baby shower, and then he's like, oh, we're looking for someone to do our content. You know, if you're not doing anything, would you do it? And I just bought a camera because I was like, I'm just going to give this a go. Run into him. He's like, yeah, sweet. So started out working for him, and then me and Jake were sort of doing the podcast, just got that up and going at the same time. And that sort of gave me, you know, the starting point. So First Choice Solar, I owe them sort of everything.
Yeah.
And then, the podcast taught me essentially like all my editing skills, everything like that. Like
chuck them in the deep end, you know? Can you swim?
Much,
all right, perfect. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I guess from there, First Choice Solar is one of your first clients. Where did you sort of go from there? Like how many clients do you sort of have now, and what have you learned across the journey? Like you sort of talk about how you had, you say no skill. I reckon you would have had something hard back in there. But what was sort of your biggest learnings over that first year or so as you sort of take that transition? You know, get the job at First Choice, so you're doing a bit of editing. What was sort of the biggest learnings that you sort of learned as you start the journey?
Starting out, it was sort of just like starting out and like in anything, try and just pick up as much as possible. So like I never really did any courses or anything. I did a few online like editing little courses and stuff, but a lot of it was honestly YouTube.
Yeah, like, YouTube University.
YouTube you can find, especially in this line of work, like you know what I mean, content game these days. Anyone who's knows what they're doing in content obviously probably has a YouTube channel, has this and gives all the tips away and sort of teaches and does tutorials. So started out doing that, and just biggest learnings was just trying to, you know, not worry about, because like I had a little bit of money coming out of like my old job and stuff, but nothing to start up. Like I couldn't just go out and be like, all right, I'm going to hire 3 people, get a team together, get an office and all this. It was sort of just like bootstrapping it and, you know, save a bit of money, buy this camera, then save up a little bit, buy this next camera or buy this or buy that, and sort of just slowly
just reinvesting in yourself and just taking that money that you're earning and you're upgrading yourself rather than going out and, you know, going down to the pav on a Saturday afternoon,
exactly.
beautiful weather, you're sort of going, getting the cameras and then reinvesting into yourself.
Pretty much, yeah. And that was it, and just sort of trying to find a pathway and work out where to go. But yeah, main sort of takeaways from it was just learning off everyone, spending as much time as possible. Like, you know, it started out with like one client.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that in that time I didn't really have to try and get another job to pay my way. I sort of had that little bit of money there that I could just slowly build it up and take on more clients and do it that way. So, yeah, it was just sort of not trying to rush it and not compare myself to everyone else, because you'd see other people start these businesses and go, oh, they've jumped straight in and they've got 3 employees and they're killing it and they're flying, and I'm over here by myself, you know, working with a laptop and a camera, and I think that's it.
Yeah, I know. I personally, that's the biggest thing. Like, I'm now doing a bit of business. I try to do business coaching and Inspire, and I'm looking at people like Grant Cardone, and they just got the biggest courses. I'm like doing their online courses. I'm trying to like make my own. I'm like, well, would anyone buy from me when they could just go and see,
straight
you
to
know, the big dog? But then I guess you sort of got to factor in yourself that not everyone wants them. The people want to see your journey, and as I've sort of learned and trying to coach other athletes and help them build their brand, is you got to share that journey. And I guess as you're going along, obviously part of the content game, and you document that journey, and people want to see that. They want to see the raw authenticity as you grow. So I think that's such a key message is, you know, you can't start at lifting 150 kilo bench press. You know, you got to start at 20, you got to start at 40, and you got to build your way up and just sort of be patient. Right. Get the foundations. Can't build a house, you know, can't put the roof on the house without the rest. So I guess you said you didn't have much of a background knowledge in the content game, but what about the business? So obviously when it's 2 parts of the business, you got to have the skills, and you got to have the business back end, and you know, if you get the boring stuff like taxes and things like that, but the setup. And did you have much experience in the business side of things rather than the skill side of things?
Not really. Like, that was one thing I was really grateful for with engineering. Was, so I did civil and construction was my major at uni. So it was like civil and construction management. So I could have gone 2 ways with it, like civil design, where you're essentially sitting in front of a computer all day and designing stuff. Yeah. Or like the construction management side, where you're on site and like managing the money for certain packages and stuff like that. And so that gave me really good skills. There was a lot of skills there that I still use to this day, in terms of like managing cash flow for certain things, or like just planning ahead and, you know, structuring everything, and like planning shoots, and you know what I mean? Like it's the same as building a house, like, or building a building. Like working out all your key parts and your critical parts and everything like that. And, so there was a lot of sort of skills that I learned through uni and through my work that I'm grateful for.
Just those life skills.
100%.
Just like so much transferable. I think me myself being a teacher and now, you know, jumping in, I found just being able to, one of the big things is just people manage. Like definitely with kids, but you know, I can run a classroom with 30 kids and it's like whatever. And you see some people like, oh, how do you do that? I can't handle my one. It's just like those transferable skills you don't really know that you have until you sort of see other people in different environments. So as you sort of said, you talk about, all right, I took the stuff from engineering. Yeah, you said at the time it was boring as, but then you get into business and you can sort of transfer those skills, which is just those life skills is so valuable. Even if I know kids at school, when you teach them like, oh, I'm never going to use the Pythagoras theorem, I'm never going to use this in life. It's not, but you might, but it's just learning how to learn, and you don't know what you don't know. So being able to, you know, keep an open mind and being able to, all right, well, I might not need this now, but in 5 years time, I never know what might happen. Obviously playing sport. Played footy. How long did you play footy for?
Up until I was 2017, I stopped playing. I played from like when I was 6. What's that, like 2001? 17 years. So obviously a long time. You played a few Queensland Cup games, you know, very semi-professional. You talk about the skills that you got from the university degree. What skills do you think you sort of picked up from sport and from rugby league and from being in a semi-professional environment? You know, you would have the NRL players coming back, and so did you pick up any key skills from there that you sort of helped just maybe in business or in life, or what are some of the key things that you take with you that you still have to this day? 100%. I reckon footy, like not only with my business and where I'm at now, like every contact that I sort of work with my business now, not everyone, but a large majority, especially at the start, related back in one way or another to footy.
Just networking
and just people you don't think you played under 10s with and you never think you'll see again, and then somehow it goes full circle and you end up working with them. But in terms of skills, like I always say this, and I always think about like in the future, like if I have kids and stuff like that, 100% I'd want them playing like team sport, because the skills you get from that of working with other people and working as a team and sort of being reliable, like being a reliable person and actually doing your part for the team and everything like that. And I think that was one of the main things that footy sort of taught me.
You go back to Bobby Campbell and, mate, what was it? That goal line defense, mate. Like mum's house, we've got to protect it. Just like being there for each other. Like he instilled like obviously so much, just the camaraderie. Like look back on it now and probably got a bit too taken away in the bus trips and the camaraderie that that was presented, but it definitely was one of the key things is just like they're your brothers and you're going to go to war with them, and it teaches you sort of, as you said, that teamwork and building those connections, which is so important that you can sort of take away. Like I stopped playing footy, I don't know, probably 7 years ago, and so from like I played with Joe. I go back every now and then, I look at old photos, and I got photos with Jake from under 7s.
Yeah, exactly.
So like we still sort of connect and have that connection. It's lifelong memories that you sort of get through those friends, and it's important to, you don't want to go and only play sport because you're like, in 20 years time I can build networks and things like that, but it is such an important part, just like putting yourself out there and playing games and learning those skills.
And I think the skills of like just, it did a lot like mindset wise. Like I think I sort of now have like a good mindset of like pushing yourself a little bit more in terms of just everything. Like I think it just taught me things like this mindset of not giving up, and because when you're jumping into business and you're starting out, especially if you're starting out sort of bootstrapping a business, like it's gonna be hard, and there's not gonna be like it's not just gonna be a straight road, fucking
never is
straight up like it, with anything. So I find now, and like when I talk to people when they're starting a business, I go and they ask like, oh, what's like your biggest advice, something like that. It's every day is different, and like it's just gonna be up and down. You can wake up and be like, oh, how good's this? Like best day ever. Like I'm flying. Hour later, you're pulling your hair out, going, "Fuck, this thing might go on." Like, it's just up and down so quickly. Like, so I think like footy and sport taught me just, keep toughing it out. Like when you're doing fitness sessions or whatever, and you're like, "Nah, I can't go anymore. I can't do this." Same as in business. If you're up late work and you're doing this, it's just like, just keep pushing. You'll get the rewards in the end.
It's lazy gratification.
Yeah,
it's like 100%. You refer to like fitness sessions. Man, footies, there's nothing else like a good old fitness session. I know Goldie, man.
And you don't go home that night and be like, oh, I'm now 10% fitter. It's continuous, just repetitions and sort of grinding away at it. Like it sounds cliche and stuff, but it's literally just, it's the same sort of mindset just with business. And I think, if you, without that sport, I don't know if I'd have that, that sort of mindset of just keep plugging away, and especially like I was never the best athlete or like the best footy player.
He's talking himself down. He's talking himself down.
But like, you know what I mean? I was never the ones that were first selected, like we were talking about before, first selected in like rep teams or anything like that. Just, it was always just sort of keep plugging away. Maybe one day you'll get noticed, maybe not. Like, but just keep doing your job, keep showing up, and keep being there like for your mates and stuff. And that's sort of what I took with business now is just keep going. And if you keep just plugging away, then it might not blow up. You might not be a millionaire. You might not be this, but if you don't stop trying, then you'll get somewhere, and you'll look back and you'll probably be amazed at how far you actually come. Yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the last few years is to sort of like look at the Hormozis and Chris Williamsons and the Rogans and that, and you see how big they are and things like that. But then you see like the daily actions, and that's the one thing I've tried to zoom out on like a 5-year perspective with my business. And I look daily and I'm like, oh man, like I didn't get that video done. Like I'm so shit. Like how dare I? Like you got to be better. Then you zoom out and like I'm like, all right, well, if I kept doing these actions over 5 years time, what would my life look like? And I'm like, if I kept doing this for 5 years, like there's no way I could fail. So it's just those daily, putting in the daily routines, that consistency. I think that's a big message. And I was also, and one of my skill sets was I was fast, but like it wasn't on the field, like off the field, like I always just make rash decisions and I'd go hard at something and I'd go all in. Like I've started that many businesses. Ask my mate, Scotty Purvis, shout out Scotty Purvis, in his garage right now has like 3 different businesses of like shirts that we're going to do and businesses like that. Cause I'm just like, yeah, this is a great idea. Go. Yeah. And then I think just for me, it's just like, step back. Like you don't have to win within the next 6 months. Yeah. Like, you can win within the next few years. And like, I'm 30 nearly this year and it's, you know, starting to tick along and I'm starting to run a bit more. The same thing. It's like, if you just do daily actions over a long time, that's sort of what's going to put out to.
What I look at now as well with that and like with my own businesses, it's not like people go, oh, you know, your business failed after 3 years, but like if that was the case, but it's not really a failure. Like you've lived 3 years doing what you wanted to do and like nothing's forever.
So shout out on Mosey. It's the work works on you more than the work works on you more than you work on it. So like even if you're sort of doing that, your 3 years, it's not nothing. It's 3 years of you learning how to do a process on how to edit videos, how to run your business, how to organize clients, how to shoot podcasts. So it's definitely nothing ever goes for granted.
Yeah, 100%. And like you haven't, you know, in that time you haven't ended up homeless or anything or like, you know what I mean? So like really overall it's a success and
you only fail if you quit.
Exactly right.
So where was I going to go to from here? I had a really cool question. All right, so you jump into your business with content. You don't really sure. What was sort of your why? Like why content creation? Did you have any sort of, I know you said you had no skills, but obviously something must have drawn you to there. So what was powering that decision to go into the content creation rather than not, obviously you hated or didn't hate, but you weren't loving the engineering, but you could have, you know, done anything. You could have, you know, been a personal trainer. Look at you, but so why? What was your why? What was your why behind the decision to go to social media? Like, what was I talk about with a lot of people building their brand, and you got to find, you know, your why. So, what was yours?
My why overall, we thought a lot about this going into the podcast when we started the podcast. Mm-hmm. Like we planned that for months. So that was like, we actually thought a lot about what our why was and obviously come back to like helping people. Yeah. And sort of having those athletes speak about it. In terms of my business, I don't know. I feel like maybe there was something subconsciously, like I said, with like grade 7 and, you know, being into all that. And I was always into like arty sort of things. Like as a kid, I'd always be up like drawing and like designing stuff and just drawing for fun, like in my spare time. So I don't know. And then I just didn't have the plan, as I said, once I finished engineering. And then I don't know. I can't even remember why I bought a camera. I just went out one day, me and Taylor, like my partner, and we'll just get a camera and just went from there. There was really no, I don't know, I just thought I'd try it out. And then I got pretty lucky with picking up clients and stuff. And I love it. So, but I think it's just, I'm really passionate about giving something a go. If you want to do something, give it a go, but go all in. Don't half-ass it and go, oh, I'm going to sit on the fence when like obviously you have to if, you know, you still got to pay bills and stuff. You can't just quit your job tomorrow and go, I'm doing this now.
I did it, but go on.
but like you would have had thought into it and like you made sure that it's a viable option.
I'll let you know in a few months.
I don't know, and I talk to so many people now, and I notice ever since I did it, like other people start to talk to you about it because they're like, oh, you did it, like how'd you go about this, how'd you go about that? And I'm not saying I'm any sort of spectacular person, anything like that. It's just people, you'd notice a lot more people, and I think it's our generation as well, so much more out there. So much more. You just have the capability, you can work from home. Like COVID, I think, really pushed it, is, you know, no one's job secure, nothing's secure. So I think that 100%. Sort of pushed everyone to go, okay, all right, well, my business actually could be an option. Exactly. So when you took that risk, what was your mindset like? What was your mindset, you know, inside that head of yours? Were you coming into COVID, the being able to connect with people, which is a big part of the social media, you know, obviously that was sort of limited. So what were the deep dark thoughts inside the head? Yeah, well,
all positive
when you look at it, like at the time, I think my partner Taylor, I think she was probably pretty stressed because it was like Rhys has just left his job in like the most unstable time ever in the world, probably. Like, I don't know. So she was probably a bit stressed, and like, yeah, I obviously had thoughts of like, where's this going? What am I doing? I actually need to try and make some money and stuff. But I think it was just like, once I'd set my mind on doing that, it was, all right,
Another
I'm just going, 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
Just go for it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And like, I used to say to her all the time, like, we'd argue about stuff, and like, not argue about stuff, but just talk about stuff. And I'd go, I'd rather lose everything, not that I own anything, but have nothing and lose everything just giving this a go, than going back to just working in a job that I don't really like, but it pays the bills, or pays like pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a big thing, is like, and my mum's always instilled this in me, is like, don't do a job just for money, because you're not going to have your heart in it. Yeah. You're not going to have your heart in it, and you're not going to do your best job or be happy with it. And they'll say, like, everyone says money doesn't buy happiness. And like, yeah, it's true to an extent, but like
sitting on a jet ski crying is way fun than sitting in straight.
Yeah, exactly. When people say, okay, being broke doesn't either. But also like, I could have stayed and been an engineer and just paid my bills comfortably and stuff like that, and not had to worry about having to go out and get more work or anything like that, and stuff like that, and try and get new clients and that extra stress.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, it's just having the mindset of going, it'll work out, keep going, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And yeah, if it doesn't work out, then thankfully I had a good mum that pushed me to go to uni, and I got
she lives around the corner.
You
can go home, live with them. Yeah. She'd love that.
I don't know.
I think also coming from the sport background is you learn to take risks.
Yeah.
I probably 100%. Took too many and gave some coaches some headaches trying to do some more short side chip chases, but I definitely think
I've seen a few pay off for you.
Yeah. I think more didn't, but that's okay. I think you learn to take those risks, and as you said before about going all in, and what's the worst that happens? Obviously, with us personally, we don't have any kids, so.
Yeah. And that was the thing.
It's pretty easy. It was a good time while you're young. So why not? Like when I sort of stepped away, my partner was like, yeah, I'll pay for you. I'm like, sweet, perfect, done. Yeah. And it's obviously, you talk about Taylor and having a partner and your family being so supportive. And I think that's probably the underrated sort of factor in a lot of people who are able to take those risks, is you have a good support network who can help you out. And if things don't go to plan, then, they're going to be there to support you. And I think 100%. That's very underrated.
100%, yeah. My family's been great about it and always been supportive and stuff, and Taylor as well. Like, Taylor's been my biggest supporter, day dot, and just been there. And obviously she could have, raised 1,000 times, going, mate, I don't think this is working. Like, go get a job. But she's stuck by me, and hopefully it'll sort of pays off down the road.
Perfect. How long you been in business now?
When to start? Back in 2020, 2021. It's
about 4 years this year.
Yeah, about 4 years. Yeah, fourth year.
What do you think have been the biggest challenges within that time, 3 years? Obviously, a few of them. What do you think has just been like the biggest challenge, or even a reoccurring challenge that sort of always seems to pop its head up, and you keep sort of dealing with that?
I'd say putting yourself out there and taking on new things, but not taking on too much. Like, there's been a few times where I probably overcommitted myself, and like, you want to do as much as you can, and not so much for the money, but like, take on new experiences and stuff. But I think that, and just probably just being able to scale correctly. A lot of it, when you start out, especially in the industry you haven't worked in before, like content and this sort of area, it's hard, like getting your pricing and making sure that you put yourself in the right place in the market to be able to actually scale and bring people on and grow. So that's probably like one of my biggest struggles, is just getting myself in a position where, I can afford to take on someone, or like a part-time or whatever, and stuff like that. So that's sort of been towards the back end now. Yeah. That's sort of where I'm at, and looking to take that next step. Which is obviously like a scary step, you know what I mean? Going out there and trying to take someone on. But I'd say that, and just not comparing yourself, as I said before. Like, one of the biggest struggles is you just look around and you see, especially these days, like
Instagram's terrible for us.
You see on Instagram, everyone's just, I made 4 million in 2 days doing this. But, you know what I mean?
Said next to their Lambo.
Like, cool. But
I think that's such a big, I struggle with that as well. You sort of my news feed is full of people that I aspire to be. So when you go on there and you're scrolling and you sort of see all these people like, oh, I want to be like you, and they're doing so well. And there's one dude I follow in particular, and he does a lot of branding. But what I like about him is he gives an insight, and he sort of talks about he's not perfect, and he shows the whole thing. Whereas I think so many, especially younger people,
it's a highlight reel.
Yeah, it's exactly. They're not always going to show you, oh man, like I just got up, being up this early. Actually, if they would say it's a brag. It's like, I got up at 4 o'clock to do my workout, sort of thing. But ice baths, meditation, human podcast in the background. But I think it's very much. Don't believe everything. I know, I always heard this one. I was like, don't believe anything you see or half what you hear. And I think social media is so much of that. As you see all these people 100%. And they're so cool and they're so awesome, but what are they doing behind the scenes? What's their life really like? So I think that's definitely one thing I want to do with this podcast and with the channel is sort of show all of it. Like I am no way saying that I am the best at branding or marketing or social media or any of that, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to learn, and I'm willing to take those risks and put myself out there. So I think that's just the biggest thing. It's like,
and that's, as you said, that's what people enjoy. Like people want to see the process and they want to see a realistic case of it. Because as you said, social media is just, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this.
I made 400K in 2 days. This is how I did it.
Yeah.
Caption in bio.
Yeah, exactly. Or like these 4 rules to fucking, you know what I mean? Like it. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
No,
I'm gonna have to beep that out.
We can beep it out.
But yeah, so I think that's what people want to see is the real side of it, and that's what you sort of see with social media going these days. Like a lot more people are just
very
filming.
More authentic.
Yeah, a bit more authentic, a bit more raw. Like not everything's that polished edit. It's a lot more just pull out your iPhone, film it, and go from there.
It's gonna be very interesting because I agree with that. It's definitely going between less edits. Yeah, but then at the same time, everyone's attention span lasts about 4 seconons, so you have to be very have to have some sort of hook in there to get people in there, because I'll do the editing. I'm every 4 seconds, if they're like, I might look at the insights and the retention rate. It's like if you're not keeping people in giving them something every 3-4 seconds, they're just next, and I do it as well, scrolling down. All right, so you're starting again, you're young, you're actually, let's go back quickly. Your decision to stop playing rugby league, obviously you played for, 17 years where you worked out. What was that decision like to stop playing and to just like, no, I'm not doing it anymore? What was the thought process there?
So it's sort of, I don't know, a few things sort of lined up, whether for good or bad, for me to stop playing. So it was 2017, I was finishing uni. I finished uni in like July that year. And then obviously footy ends back into that year, and I ended up breaking. So I got offered that job, and it started in February next year. Once I finished uni, so I had like 6 months or whatever there to sort of just do whatever and get a job and get by, and then start that next gig. And I ended up breaking my foot in the start of August in that year as well. And I was sort of planning on, I didn't think I was going to be able to keep playing footy just because of work.
Yep.
Like doing engineering, that line of work, like you're on site at 6 and you're probably not leaving until 6.
Yeah.
Like that's a standard day.
Yeah.
So I was sort of like, I'm not going to
But you don't do much. Engineers there in the suits and they stand there and watch, don't they?
Point.
Yeah.
Point, do this.
Pick
Done
that
that wrong.
Put that there.
Anyway, I'm going back to the aircon. No, it's not like that at all. But yeah, you cop that.
Yeah.
100%. But just knew I wasn't going to be able to do the stuff. So I sort of come to the conclusion in my head that I was going to stop playing. I would have liked to keep playing. Obviously, like I think I was 21 at the time. And then, ended up breaking my foot. So I had to have a couple operations on that. And then, so that just ruled out any chance of, going back for pre-season or doing this or doing that. So just sort of stopped playing from there. And
do you find that a struggle? Like, obviously, you're playing 17 years. I know your family comes from a very rugby league background. Always seem down at the Bears, supporting. How was that sort of mentally? Was that an easy decision or a hard decision? I know you wanted to maybe stop anyway, but obviously there's still going to be some deeper thoughts within that.
Yeah. So I wouldn't really say I wanted to stop, but I'd sort of come to terms with it. And then once I broke my foot, I was just like, it sort of just all fell into it that, I'd have a few operations and then started out working in that job in like February and just sort of never really looked back at it. Like I still sort of get itchy feet here and there today, but
word in the street is League Leaders is putting in a Nines Premier Rugby League team next year. So, we'll hit you up.
What about it? Yeah, lately I have been talking about it, and I was talking about it with Jake actually.
Yeah, I'll get him
my
down
brother.
there.
He wants
Can he
to,
still play? What? I saw you won the C grade Oz Tag division.
Don't start. Let's start. It's a G grade, I think. Yeah, he mentioned. So we were thinking about maybe because he's like, I'm 30 now. I wouldn't mind playing one more game. So and like the only chance you can do that is in a carnival like that. Yeah, or like a Koori knockout or something. So I was thinking about maybe playing in like a Koori knockout or something just for one last run, but. Yeah, I didn't really. I think I'd sort of thought about it long enough that I knew I was gonna stop playing. Yeah. So it wasn't like this big shock of I broke my foot, now I can't go back, or I've done this. So I sort of come to terms with it, and now I like the thing I missed most was being around the boys and like 100%. That camaraderie you have with all your mates, and like because.
I've like a bus trip home from Redcliff, going across that bridge, celebrating the boys.
I drove across that bridge the other day.
Shout out to Shenbo. What did he do? Six back across the bridge. That was impressive.
Exactly, but you don't get that anywhere else. Like you have your team in like business and stuff, or like at your work, but you don't get that footy sort of camaraderie and
that high though. And the training all week, doing your pre-season, going into round 1, round 2, round 2, and you're just looking forward to it so much.
Yeah, and you end up spending more time like with the boys at footy than especially like your family half the time.
Remember like the younger grades, the 19, 20s, things like that. You train probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday, game on Sunday. Yeah. So you're always together, then your mates with them anyway, so you're probably hanging out with them Saturday, Sunday and whatnot. So you definitely do. Yeah, that's it.
Exactly. So like if you got weekends off, it was like it was the only week that all the boys had off, so you'd just go and do stuff.
Hang out anyway. So
you don't get that anywhere. So I think that's what I miss the most. But now, obviously, so one of my clients now is Burleigh Bears, and like they've been massive help to me as well, starting out, and I owe so much to them. So I sort 100%. So I sort of get that now. Like I get to go down and hang around the boys and be at training and have that still in my life. Yeah, but I don't have to sit there and get flogged at fitness.
Wake up Monday, just like, where's the chiropractor at?
Yeah, I can sort of watch them train, take a few photos and go, all right, I'm going to go home.
Yeah, that's the one thing I just don't miss is the body. It's pretty limber.
I don't know how I could do it now. No. I throw my back out doing anything.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I just want to finish with a question. Younger Duke, he's about 20 years old, or someone that's maybe thinking about jumping away from sport, or they're jumping away from their normal day job to jump into business. Yeah. What sort of advice, what are you giving them? What are your key tips to help them succeed in their future moving forward?
I'd say find something that it sounds really cliche, but know what you like doing and see if there's a way to do that. If you don't just look in and go, everyone's doing content, or I heard this job pays this, I'm going to get into this because I want to make that much money.
My life story, drop shipping and all of that. Just like, they made heaps of money.
Yeah, it's find what you're passionate about, because passion takes you a long way, and when things do go shit, which they're gonna, 100%, that sort of passion is what'll actually keep you going. Yeah. Because otherwise, if it's something you don't really care about, something you're not passionate about, I find as soon as things get hard, you'll go, see you later, where else can I go and do something? Yeah. So probably that, and I think talk to people. I was sort of like, I've always been a quiet person and stuff like that, and don't sort of talk about like my personal life a whole lot. I think, and that was a struggle for me, but I talked to a lot of people and I put a lot of thought into actually leaving engineering. Like as I said, like in the back end of my degree, I sort of knew it wasn't for me, and I had those thoughts of not progressing with it once I finished. So I think talk to a lot of people, because I think there's a lot of things I thought at the time where I was like, oh, I'll go and do this. And then you talk to people who work in that area or work in a similar area, and they're like, or like just people and they go, I don't think that's really like suited to you. Do you really want to do that, or are you just doing that because for money or, it's an easy way or something like that. So I think it's, find something you're passionate about, work out how you can do it, talk to people that already do it, and then just go for it.
Just go for it and go all in.
Yeah.
All right, Dukey, where can people find you?
What's my socials? Just on Instagram. I think if you just search
Duke Digital?
Duke, Duke Digital is my business page. And then dukedigital.com is my website, obviously. So anywhere on there, TikTok, everything like that. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Anyone needs any content, Dukey's your guy. And thanks for chatting. Find me, hit my Instagram at Jackson Luke, the Jackson Luke, at the Jackson Luke, or at League Leaders. But episode 1 done, dusted. Thank you for your time, and cheers, Dukey. And
all good. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.